It's been proven again and again that becoming wealthy has less to do with how smart someone is and everything to do with how they behave. Morgan Housel spent years researching why some people build incredible wealth while others struggle, and what he discovered will change how you think about money forever. His book, The Psychology of Money, isn't just another book about finance. It's really a peek inside our minds and how they quietly work against us and sabotage our wealth unless we know what to do to combat it. It explains how high IQ people can master all of the investing strategies and investments and know all about the markets, but they keep making the same mistakes as everybody else because money isn't just logical, it's deeply psychological. So, in the next few minutes, I'm going to share some of the most powerful insights from the book, The Psychology of Money, to uncover the hidden mental traps that's going to hurt your financial future, and then some of the mindset shifts that's going to help you level up and transform your approach to building wealth. By the way, I'm Dave Zoller, and I've got a wealth management firm and a tax planning firm, and I've been helping people get to financial independence for the last 16 years. And I actually have another YouTube channel with over 160,000 subscribers, but that channel is mainly focused on retirement planning strategies. So I started this new channel to help you if you're under 55 and you're on your wealth building journey. If that's you, consider subscribing. So let's get started with lesson number one, which is the hardest financial skill to gain. And that's whether you have $100,000 or 100 million. And that is getting the goalpost to stop moving. He tells a story of Rajat Gupta, who he rose from poverty in India and he became the head of McKinsey and Company. And he had a net worth of over $100 million, but it wasn't enough. He wanted more. So what he started doing was insider trading. He ended up losing everything. He lost his reputation, his wealth, and his freedom. So the core insight is there is no reason to risk what you have and need for what you don't have and don't need. But we tend to do this all the time. Me too. There's always someone richer. There's always a bigger house or a nicer car or a more exotic vacation. And social comparison, really, it's got no ceiling. So here's what I want you to think about right now. It's based on Housel's advice, which is defining enough. Not what society says you need, not what your neighbor has, but really what's enough for you. Maybe it's a paid off house and maybe $1 million saved in retirement accounts, or maybe it's $10 million in complete financial freedom. I don't care what the number is, but you need to know what it is and you have to set it, because once you hit your enough, then the game really changes. You stop risking what you have and what you need for what you don't have and what you don't need. In an upcoming email to my email list, I'm going to send a 3-question framework to follow to help find your enough. So if you're interested, you could sign up for that below. The next lesson is wealth is what you don't see. Because when you see someone driving a Ferrari, you don't know if they're wealthy. You know that they spent the money on a Ferrari. That's pretty much it. As Housel explains, wealth is financial assets that haven't been converted into the stuff that you see. It's money that hasn't been spent on a car. It's the financial assets that you can't see. He points out that we judge people by how wealthy they are by seeing what we can observe of them. But true wealth is really hidden. He tells a story about janitor Ronald Reed, who accumulated $8 million really because he didn't spend money on trying to look rich. Here's the core insight. Spending money to show people how much money you have is the fastest way to have less money. It's so simple, but it's true. And this is why building wealth really requires humility, because you can't show off wealth and build it at the same time. Every dollar that you spend to look rich is really a dollar that's not going to compound and it's not going to actually make you rich. So stop trying to look wealthy and focus on actually being wealthy internally. The toys that you don't buy, the car that you don't upgrade, the house that you don't upsize, that's what is actually building real wealth. The next lesson is getting rich and staying rich require completely different playbooks. As Housel puts it, getting money requires taking risks and being optimistic and putting yourself out there. But then keeping money requires the opposite. It requires humility, and it kind of requires a fear that what you've made can be taken away just as fast. Morgan uses the example of Mike Tyson, who at his peak, he was making $30 million or something like that for a single fight, but he filed for bankruptcy with $27 million in debt. How could that happen? Because he was great at making money, but he was just terrible at keeping it. Now compare that to Warren Buffett. Maybe it's not a great comparison, but he's not the best investor who ever lived. There's hedge fund managers who've achieved higher returns than he has, but he's been a good investor for over 70 years. and he's kept it. He's actually got a slogan, two rules of money, which is don't lose money. And then rule number 2 is never forget rule number 1. But that's his secret. So here's what this means for you. As you start building wealth, your mindset needs to shift. So in your 20s and 30s, you can take calculated risks and you can start the business or invest a little bit more aggressively, or you can bet on yourself a little bit more. But as you accumulate wealth, you start thinking a little bit more about defense. And the goal isn't to hit home runs anymore. And it's really just not to strike out. Because as Morgan says, good investing isn't necessarily about earning the highest returns, because the highest returns, they tend to be one-time hits that can't be repeated. So I've got a few more lessons coming up, but I'd love to know if this is hitting with you so far, and if you're liking it. If you are, please click the like button so that I know. The next lesson is related to how we save money. Most people think that we always need a goal or a reason for saving money, saving for the house or saving for a future car or whatever it is, saving for retirement. But Housel, he argues that some of your best saving is going to have no specific goal at all. Why? Because 1, life's unpredictable, and savings is really a hedge against life's unexpected surprises. And also, the best opportunities often come when you least expect them. So having cash available or having some sort of savings available gives you options when others don't have that option. And a big thing is it gives you control over your time. That flexibility and control over your time, if we're saving for future financial freedom, the control over your time is really an unseen return on wealth, which is related to the next lesson. And that's about the highest dividend that money can pay. And that is about controlling your time. As Morgan puts it, the ability to do whatever you want, when you want, with who you want, for as long as you want, that's priceless. It's the highest dividend that money pays. Money is just a tool, but the real goal is control over your life. Not having to work weekends because you're stressed about bills, or not having to stay in a job that you hate because you need the paycheck, or not missing your kid's baseball game because you can't afford to take the time off. You don't need millions in the bank to feel this. Even a small emergency fund gives you some options, and it means that a bad boss doesn't own you. It means that a layoff isn't going to break you. The next lesson is people do some crazy things with money, but no one's crazy. And what he means by this is every financial decision that you make, it seems rational based on your unique experience and your unique worldview. Think about someone who lived through the Great Depression. They're never going to feel comfortable with debt. Many of them, even if mathematically it makes sense to have debt. Morgan explains that we all have different experiences with money, and those experiences, they shape every financial decision that we make. And none of these people are wrong. They're making rational decisions based on their own personal story. But here's what this means for you. We don't have to judge other people's financial decisions, and we don't have to care about that really. We just have to start understanding our own biases and what experiences that we've had shaped how we think about money right now. Because until you understand your own money story, you might keep making the same emotional decisions over and over again. On to the next lesson, and it's about the most powerful force in finance, and that is not talent, it's time. When back to Warren Buffett, his net worth, it's in billions of dollars. But the crazy part about his story is that 99% of the wealth that Buffett earned happened after his 50th birthday. And the secret wasn't that he was the best investor. He did great, but the secret was that he started early and he just never stopped. Housel explains Buffett's fortune isn't due to just being a good investor, but being a good investor since he was literally a child. Compounding isn't just about money growing. It's about the time doing the heavy lifting. Time is the most powerful force in finance, but it only works if you give it something to work with. So if you're young, start now and just keep investing. And as you get older, don't panic. Just don't wait another day. Start now. And then the next lesson is, as we're building wealth over time, it is to plan on your plan not going according to plan. Because no plan survives contact with reality. People will get laid off at work at the worst possible time, or the market will crash right before we need to spend some of the money or use some of the money on something that we were saving for, or your car is going to break down the same week that your roof starts leaking. Housel's solution is always build in a margin of safety. As he explains, the purpose of the margin of safety is to render the forecast unnecessary. The wealthy families that I work with, they do follow Morgan's advice. They keep more cash than they need. They live well below their means, and they prepare for Murphy's Law. So the thing to do is keep 6 to 12 months of expenses in cash, live on less than you make, and don't put all your investments in one thing or all your money into one investment, no matter how confident you feel. So those are a few key lessons from the psychology of money. If this video was helpful and it helped you think differently about money, hit the like button. And if you want more strategies on what's actually helped people build their wealth, consider subscribing and hit the notification bell. And then I'd love to know, what's the lesson that stood out from Morgan Housel's book that hit you the hardest? Let me know in the comments because I read every one of those. And then I'll see you in the next video.